Greetings, fellow action figure connoisseurs, and welcome to another episode of Digital Caveman Presents. I, as always, am your host, the Digital Caveman, and today I will be presenting you with the XesRay Studios 2025 event exclusive Combatants Fight for Glory Gold Hildr. Let's get into it! Let's start things off with a look at the packaging. And here on the top, it says Event 2025, and it's got some splatter on there. Then here on, I'm guessing this is the front. It doesn't really say. More splatter going on. There's a pattern in the background. I can't exactly tell what it is. It may just be where more splatter is, or it could be Gold Hildr. It's hard to really tell. But then you have the Combatants Fight for Glory logo here. Oh, it is Hildr. I see. There's the legs. And okay. And then here on the bottom, so I guess the other side is the front. Made in China print. Don't give it to babies. Recycle the stuff. A barcode. XesRay Studios. They're on Facebook, Instagram, and X. Product and color may vary. And there's XesRay Studios tape right there. XesRay Studios. And then I guess this is the front. XesRay Studios and Gold Hildr. And again, splatter and kind of a shadowy outline of the character there. And then on this side, it says exclusive with lots of splatter. And then on this side, it says Event 2025 with some splatter. And there I go bumping the camera because it's a Digital Caveman Presents review. Now, I don't know how this is displayed in here. It is sealed. So let me unseal that real quick, and we'll see if it's this slip cover is, you know, covering up any nice windows or stuff on the inside. At least I think it's a slip cover. It might not be. So let's see. It is, I think. Well, let me see if I can get this out of here. All right, now I think I got it. So it is a slip cover, and that all does come off. So we can take a look at the inside packaging. XesRay Studios exclusive. And there's a nice big window showcasing the figure and some of the accessories, at least, maybe not all of them. 15 and up, Combatants Fight for Glory Gold Hildr on the top. Event 2025 with that splatter, and then the XesRay Studios tape. On the bottom is the exact same because the top and the bottom are what we looked at already. So on this side, we have Combatants Fight for Glory with some splatter and maybe some helmets, it looks like. And then on this side, a nice practical shot of Gold Hildr, all kitted out for battle. And then on the back, Combatants Fight for Glory with a nice splatter behind it. Warning! Don't stick things in your pie hole that do not belong there. And then there's a nice practical shot of Gold Hildr walking through the forest. And then here's something about her. Gold Hildr, mercenary / gladiator, ethic, Germanic, and I don't, well, maybe ethic is what they mean. I'm not sure. Hildr is the daughter of Branthok. Her father left her when she was very young. When she learned that her father was seeking to meet her, she had no desire to see him and instead went out of her way to avoid him. Hildr inherited her father's robust physique and made a living as a mercenary. Occasionally, she would fight alongside the Romans against the Germanics. To avoid being targeted for revenge on the battlefield, she would dye her hair red and disguise herself as a Celtic before engaging in combat. Additionally, she would sometimes work as a gladiator to earn more money. With her thick and golden locks, she earned the nickname Gold Hildr. And then there's XesRay Studios there at the bottom. And that, my friends, is a look at the packaging. Let's take a look at the figure and her accessories. And we do have handy dandy tweezers standing by for when we go to look at smaller stuff like this, which was in the little baggie with her fur pieces. Notice, please do soft the parts with hot water before assembly or disassembly to avoid being damaged. So basically that's what it means, is heat it up before you try to pop off any parts, and I do recommend that. And here it is again in an Asian script. I don't know. So let's talk about the soft goods first. There are two soft goods cloaks, and there's this one which, you know, kind of has a vaguely shirt shape to it, and then on the other side it's quite fuzzy, and you know, it's cool looking, and it's got a snap here, a button snap, and at least I think that's what they're called. And then there's one on, you know, the other part on this side, and you put it around the figure wherever. You can put it around her waist, you put it around her shoulders, and snap it into place. And I will say these pieces do shed, so just something to be aware of. It's not really a problem, just something to be aware of, because when I get through with this review, I'll probably have to go through and tweeze up little parts of it off of my green screen. So here's the larger cape, which I guess you could use both of them in conjunction over her shoulders if you wanted to. So it's kind of tattered at the bottom, and it has the same snaps. And you know, this side is kind of, it's not great looking, but you know, the fuzzy side looks really, really good. And I probably won't go over how you put this on the figure, because this is, you know, I think everybody can pretty much figure out how to put, you know, it's a cloak. It just kind of drapes over. So I'm not going to go over that. So now we have handy dandy tweezers here. So let's take a look at some of the smaller accessories. And then she does come with, you know, 1, 2, 3 extra sets of hands and an extra pair of feet. So that's cool. So first up, let's take a look at the fists. And the skin tone does match the skin tone of the figure. It's a fist. It is nicely detailed. And I don't know if it's painted this color or if it's molded in plastic that color. It's kind of hard to tell. It might be molded in that color. So there's 2 fists, a left one and a right one. And here's the other one. So very cool. Nice sculpt. Here's some slap hands for those of you who pull off too many overlays. And again, it matches up with the skin tone of the figure, and that applies to all of these hands and feet. And it does have some nice molded details. I don't know if it's the camera's picking it up, but you know, you can see some fingernails on there. They're not painted or anything, because you know, she's a barbarian chick. And then again, there's a left one and a right one. For those, then we have like the kind of splayed out, grasping kind of hand, I guess. And again, it's same molded details, and again, it does match up to the skin tone. So very nice. And again, the left one and the right one. Now I go bumping the camera. So next we have her feet, and they're bare feet. so she doesn't always have to wear her barbarian shoes. And again, it's molded in, you know, it's the same color as the skin tone, which I think the whole thing is molded in that color. You can see the details of the toenails there, and not a whole lot of detail on the bottom of the foot, but you know, and same with this. And again, it's a left one and a right one, and you can see like the big toe's kind of separated from the rest of the toes. They're all molded together except for the big toe. So I don't know, some people might find that interesting. So now let's take a look at her weapons. She has this big honking battle axe, and it is double bladed, although the back blade is, I guess, more of a counterweight than anything, and it's, you know, the blade is laid in there kind of at an angle. I'm gonna say this darker color on it is what it's molded in, or maybe it may be molded in this color. This is a paint app, and then there's probably two paint apps on this, a darker one, which is the base, and then silver dry brush, it looks like, over that. But nice wood details, and then we've got this gold here at the bottom with some rivets in it, and then like a black dry brush over the top of that, maybe, just to give it some age. But there's all kinds of nicks and stuff and the scratches on the sides of the blade, two rivets in that too. So that's a nice looking piece. We have her sword, and again, it looks like it's got a little bit of a dry brush on it, not a whole bunch, but just a little bit. Very Romanesque looking, and it's a nice silver paint app for the blade. And then I'm gonna guess it's molded in this brown color, and if that's not brown, hey, I'm colorblind, don't make fun of handicapped people. And then silver here, and it's got a little bit of a dry brush or maybe a wash on the inside, and this may be wash on here, but it's very, very slight. And then here we have her hatchet or hand axe or whatever you want to call it, and again, it's got that same coloration as the larger axe for the blade, and then it's probably molded in this brown, and then we've got a paint app here, and it looks like that's it. But nice, you know, details in there for the wood of the handle. It's a really nice looking piece, and you know, I say that, and that really holds true for this whole thing. It's a very nice looking figure all around. Here's her dagger or her knife, most likely printed in this or molded in this brown color, and then the silvers for the paint app, and then it may have just a slight wash on it. It looks like it's just very slight wash on that piece. And of course I dropped it. Where'd it go? There it is. I'll just put it over here with the other pieces, and I'll show how all that works here with the figure in a minute after we go over her. So here's her helmet, and you can see it came out of the package just a little bit warped, but once you get it on her head, it kind of straightens out a bit, and I'm sure if I was to heat it up a little bit, it would return to its original form. But then we've got, I think there's a gray paint app for the base here, and then a silver dry brush over that, but it's a heavy dry brush, and I could have that wrong because I am not a painter, guys. And then we've got these horns sticking out of it, and the whole thing is probably molded in this color, but I don't know. And then just like it's got details and designs all over it with, you know, spiky stuff there on the top for headbutting people she's fighting. The gold paint app right here, I almost missed that, and it's got that nice detailing in it too. So that's a cool piece. Now the last accessory is this piece right here, but because it has to be heated up to peg into place, and you can see there's the peg right there. I just went ahead and put it on, and it's adjustable once you get it in there. It's just like a mushroom peg. So now let's take a look at the figure herself, and the sculpt on this thing is excellent. The paint apps are really, really good. Now the skin tone, I feel like might be just a little dark, but you know, maybe not either. Maybe she's out in the sun a lot. So there's that. And I mean, there's all this sculpted detail in her hair, and then there's a wash in there too, and some paint apps here where it's, you know, braided in here and here as well. And I'm gonna tell you guys, this is a base body, and everything on it except for the hair, well, minus the top of the hair, is an overlay that can be removed. Every single bit of it, and we'll talk about that later. So, you know, I think it's a very good mold for the body. The sculpt is really, really good, and that holds true for the overlays as well. And I mean, there's a ton of them like this. Everything you see on this figure, other than the skin tone, is an overlay. This is an overlay, and all of it can be removed. So there may be a little bit of shading here in the abs, or that could just be the lights. I think it's just the lights. I don't think there's any shading in there to help the musculature. But I mean, just the paint apps all over this thing, and the washes, and it's just great. And it's hard for me to verbally articulate everything, because it's overwhelming. There's just so much going on with this figure. But you can see like all the detail and all the paint apps and everything for yourself here. I can't point them all out, not and keep this video to, you know, a decent length at least. So, and the color for her eyes and the slight color to her lips and her teeth, and it just all looks, it's really, really good. And I find it hard to talk about it, because it's overwhelming. Now let's talk about her articulation. And this is the first time that I've covered an XesRay Studios Combatants human figure. Of course, I've covered Thales and Balathu, so this is the first human figure that I'm covering. So because of the hair, she really doesn't look up. She can look down that far. She's got some chicken neck. She's got waggle. She can, with just a slight bit of difficulty, do the full exorcist, but then you have to watch this necklace overlay get caught in stuff, and you gotta watch me fumble around to fix it. But with a little bit of patience, you can get it. So that's all for that part. Now in the shoulder, she does have a slight butterfly, but it only goes forward, and that's pretty much it right there. So it goes back a little, it goes forward a little, and that's pretty much it. At the shoulder, it does rotate 360 degrees, and it comes out to approximately 90 degrees there at the shoulder. And you can see it's on this big old ball in there. That's pretty cool. So that also gives it a little bit of rotation up there, because there's nothing in the bicep piece. It's a single hinge and swivel at the elbow, swivels around 360 degrees, and it gives you that much bend with the overlay. Without the overlay, it may give you just a bit more. And I want to say, yeah, these are on those ball hinges that I like to call the import hinge. So it'll go, you can move it around so it'll go up and down or in and out or even in an angle and stuff like that. And the other side is like that as well. Where the chest and the abdomen meet, there's a cut with a dumbbell in it. And you can see it gives her all kinds of hula. It will not let her rotate 360 degrees though. She can lean back that far, so that's pretty good. And forward that far, that's pretty good too. And then the side to side tilt there's a lot of it there. So there's that. There's nothing in the waist, and that's one of the things I feel this figure's missing out on some range of movement, because there's no articulation in the waist, and I really hate that. Now, as far as the legs go, the way that she comes out of the packaging, she can give you that much of the splits, and I don't think the overlays are hindering that up too much. They might be just a tad. She can kick forward about that far, and you have to watch out because you can see in there that ball has come loose from the torso, so just something to be aware of. It's not a major problem or flaw with the figure, but it does come loose sometimes when you're trying to articulate the figure. So the ball's there at the hip. You do get a little rotation there. There's nothing in the thigh. It's a double hinged pinless knee, and with that overlay on, she gets that much bend. But let's take a look at this one. It's not quite as bad with the overlay, so you get that much bend, but I think the boot top is still getting in the way just a little bit. So there's no boot cut in there, and there's no swivel at the knee or anything like that. At the ankle, it tilts down that far, it tilts up that far, and again, this is with the overlays, so you get a little bit better when the overlays are not in the way. And then it does have a pin for rocker. Now, as far as all of her weapons and things like that, we can take a look at that real quick. Hopefully it'll be real quick. So her sword, when she's not using it, it fits nicely into the scabbard, and it's pretty tight in there, but I don't think it's so tight that it's going to mess up the paint. Then she's got a little sheath back here for her dagger, and it fits in there nice and tight, and again, it's in there, it's not going to fall out. For her hand axe, hatchet, throwing axe, whatever you want to call it, there's this loop right here, and it just kind of goes down in the loop. And now she doesn't want to stand up right for whatever reason. So there's that. And then as far as the other axe goes, she just has to hold it in her hand. Now the helmet, remember earlier I said something about the top of the hair was an overlay? And it does pull off. There's a post right there in the middle of it. If I get my fat thumb out the way, maybe I can show it to you. So down in there, and maybe you can see it a little bit there. And then she does have a hole in the top of her head there. But the helmet does not have the post because it just fits on there and stays where it's supposed to. And I would say it lines up nice. You can see her eyes through it, and it frames her nose and mouth pretty well there. So, and then as far as the extra hands and feet and stuff, of course, there's no storage for that. And as far as the soft goods, you just drape them over her and clasp them. And that, my friends, is the look of the figure, her accessories, and some of her storage, or she stores some of her stuff. Here we have the XesRay Studios 2025 event exclusive Combatants Fight for Glory Gold Hildr with the XesRay Studios Combatants Fight for Glory Thales the Shredder, and the 2024 event exclusive XesRay Studios Combatants Fight for Glory Balathu the Big Teeth. It's time for my favorite part of a review, comparisons. And here we have the XesRay Studios 2025 event exclusive Combatants Fight for Glory Gold Hildr with Harbinger Studios Savage Crucible Who-Man, Boss Fight Studios Epic Hacks Red Sonja, and Four Horsemen Studios Mythic Legions Sir Elijah. For our last set of comparisons, here we have the 2025 event exclusive XesRay Studios Combatants Fight for Glory Gold Hildr, with from the Marvel Legends series making his cameo appearance, Stan the Man Lee. From G.I. Joe Classified series, the Hasbro Pulse exclusive Regal variant Cobra Commander. From Star Wars The Black series, the Archive Edition 501st Legion Clone Trooper. And for a 7-inch scale comparison from the Masters of the Universe Masterverse line, the 40th Anniversary He-Man. For final ramblings on the XesRay Studios Combatants Fight for Glory event exclusive Gold Hildr, I don't know what event she was exclusive to, or if she was just exclusive at events, but whatever the case may be, it was available on Big Bad Toy Store after the fact of event or events or whatever have you. And I'm very glad that they did this, because this is a really, really good figure. Now, that's not to say it's 100% good. There's a little bit of bad to go with it as well. But for the most part, I do think this is a beautifully crafted figure, and I really like it. And when I said that every single overlay comes off of this figure, every overlay comes off of this figure, and it's nothing but a base body with overlays. So there is that. For those of you who like to take, shall we say, more risque action figure photos, this is a perfect figure for you. It would lend itself very, very nicely to that. The lower part is not anatomically correct. The upper part does have some correct anatomical details and no paint app to kind of set it off. So that's out there. That's what it has. And there you go. But overall, I like the posability of this figure. I like the paint on this figure. I like the sculpt on this figure. The minuses on this one, and it may be a very minor thing. The skin tone seems a little too dark, or maybe it has a shade of red or something in it. It seems just slightly too dark. Like she laid at the beach or in the tanning bed or what have you, just a little bit longer than she should have. But as I'm looking at it through the camera here, you know, it doesn't look that dark as it does in person. So there is that. but I will say it's probably pretty close to that. I do like her weapons. I do like that the figure is somewhat customizable, and that if you had another figure with different overlays, you know, you could probably swap those things out. The weapons look really, really nice, and she does seem very much like a barbarian. The other major complaint that I have about this figure, and I say it's a major complaint, some people might not have this issue, but in the thighs, the way the articulation is set up, there's like an upside down T-bar that has 3 ball joints on it, and one goes up into the torso and then the other 2 lead out to the legs. The legs aren't the issue. It's the ball joint that plugs into the bottom of the torso. It sometimes likes to come loose, and by sometimes I mean when you articulate the legs. So something just to be aware of. I wouldn't say it's a major detriment to this figure. It's not like you're going to set her on the shelf and that's going to cause her to fall apart or knock everything on your shelf over or anything like that. Because once you get her posed and you can put that, you know, back into position, then it's not a deal. It's just when you're actually articulating the legs that you have to watch out for that. So just something to be aware of. But overall, I have to say, this is my first human XesRay Studios Combatants Fight for Glory human figure, and I have to say it's just as impressive as those large guys, Balathu the Big Teeth and Thales the Shredder. The only difference is she's smaller, but just as impressive. So overall, I have to say I really like this figure. It does have a few minor issues with it. And again, if you like to take those risque photos, then, you know, there it is. Well, that does it for the review. I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed making it. Only support from viewers like you make this programming possible. Each view does count, and I do appreciate each and every single view I receive. Thank you, and thank you so very, very much for supporting this channel through viewing. If you are interested in supporting my channel further, I'm now offering memberships at various tiers. Click the join button on my YouTube page or check this video's description for the link and see if any membership offers are right for you, but only if you are in a position to do so. Comment below, like, share, subscribe if you would like to see more content or just help the channel grow, or both. That's even better. And don't forget to ding that bell so that in the future you will be notified as my new content becomes available. That's a wrap, folks. I'll see you next time.